Hello viewers, this is Mitul here. In this module 8, the advanced query concepts, what we would be covering is first of all we'll be covering is the store procedure, and within the store procedure what we will see is how to create the store procedure, how to alter it, how to drop it, how to execute, and what are the kind of permissions that we can grant to the store procedure, what are the dependencies, like what all dependent objects are there within that, right? And then the parameters, how many parameters you could pass to the store procedure, whether it could be input or an output parameters. Then the third type is like the returning a data from a store procedure. How can we return the data from a store procedure? Then the fourth kind is like the recompiling. How can we recompile the store procedure? Okay, and then the renaming of the store procedure that we will see. Then we will see the exception handling. How can we manage the exceptions occurring from the store procedure? So yeah, so how can we create it is we need to right click on the store procedure, go to the new, then store procedure, click on it, so that it will just create a template store procedure for you. Now you do not know possibly, right, what are the kind of parameters you may need, and the kind of inputs you need, or maybe the outputs you may need, right? So all of that you do not know at this point. So how can you just modify or update this kind of template, right? There is a shortcut to that: control plus shift plus M. Okay, and there is an alternative other than this shortcut is how can you pop up this dialog box is, so under the query tab you need to go with this option, second option. Okay, so once you get this, there is a shortcut as we just clicked using the control plus shift plus M. Okay, so if you press it, then you will find this dialog box. Now within this dialog box, basically what you need to do is you need to pass the particular values within that. Okay, now what are these values? Let us just go one by one for each of them. The first kind of parameter value that we want, because here is the author name, right? Like what we want to give it as an author name is what we will be directly putting in those values straight away here. Let's say if I am the author, I would like to put in my name, so I will put in my name Atul Brahmat. Then create the date, like in case say like today, what is the date? 25th of November 2025. So what we will be writing here, 25th November and then 25th. Description, what you would like to give a description for the store procedure, right? Since this is our test store procedure that we are creating, so we can put in like this. Then we will see like what is the procedure name. So basically what is the procedure name that you would like to give it to, right? So we can give it like let's say I would like to give it like dpo dot say like a get employee get student result possibly. Okay, get student results, or get student result only. Okay, so this is the name that you would give to the store procedure. Then what is the parameter that you would like to pass in, right? Maybe say like for a student, if you want the student's result, then you need to pass the student's name, right, as an input parameter. So what we can put it here is we can pass it as param, then underscore, give it like a student name. Then what will be the data type for that, right? Suppose say you want to just pass the student ID. Okay, so then put in like student ID and let the type be same as integer for now, so that the data type can be integer for that. And then the default value what you would like to put in is integer as 0. By default will be 0. Then the parameter 2, what you would like to do with this parameter is you want to give it a name as parameter student result maybe. Okay, or student res. Yeah, that is what we just want to give it a name it to. And then we will just say here whatever is the data type you would like to give it. Say like a student result will be in the varchar format, right? So we'll give it like varchar 20 possibly. Okay, default value you would like it to be empty string, and then say okay. So see, everything is filled up on its own, like you filled up a form and it's everything is filled up in this. It has changed the store procedure parameter names, it has set up the variable and the data types to that, and then the default value assigned to this parameter, right? This both of these parameters are of input kind. Okay, if there is a keyword here, say like output, then it will be the output parameter, otherwise consider say it's an input parameter only. Okay, so these two are the kind of parameters we have provided. And what is the store procedure name that we also provided? What will be the internal definition also? It will refer to this parameter. Whatever value we pass, the same will be returned from the store procedure. Okay, in the form of result set, not as a return value, but in the form of result set. All right. So this is one of the way, like through SSMS, meaning like the store procedure way of displaying or creating the store procedure. How, in case you do not know the syntax, or maybe in the initial few time, like you might get difficulty creating this, then you can go with this, or maybe in a like crash mode, or maybe in a like a fastest mode. If you would like to write something, then this is the shortcut. You don't have to type this much string. Instead, just give it like briefly. Okay, so it will be very handy through this process. Then let's just close this for now. We will not like to go ahead with that for now. What we would like to go ahead with is this one. So basically here the syntax is very common, like how we create the tables, how we create the database, the same way create or alter. When you say alter, you already know that, right? Like why do we do the alteration is like just to modify the existing object. In case if the object is not created, it would create, and if it is already existing, it will just go and modify it. Okay, then the store procedure name is the standard syntax. Then in the beginning of the store procedure, first of all, we will set this no count on. The reason behind is added to prevent the extra result set from the interfering with the select statement. Okay, so there will be no counts coming out from the output. Okay, in the output. So and then after that you will just write the select statement or whatever transaction that you would like to write in. So here, say like in this example, I am taking a simple query, like where I am reading the learning DB TBL result table. Okay, just to return the result set straight away from the table, the student table, right? Student result table. So let us just execute this command and then create the store procedure. Okay. All right. So it has created the store procedure. Now, how can we make sure like whether it is created as expected? We need to test it, right? So we will test it using the exact keyword. You could write it like the full keyword as well, or you could write the initial 4 characters or of the same. Okay. So whichever way you are comfortable with, you can go ahead with any of them. So let's say we just selected the store procedure name. After exact keyword, you would write the schema name. If you are providing the schema, then schema name dot store procedure name. Okay. USP, why am I writing the USP? Meaning like the user defined store procedure is what we are specifying. By default, like the system, the SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, by default creates the store procedure using the SP as a prefix. Okay. So how to differentiate like the user created store procedure? This is the way how you can differentiate, meaning like USP. Okay. All right. So let's just execute now. Fine. So we found that like there are 3 records coming out of that particular table result, right? So that's the one of the way to create and alter the store procedure. Now, once the store procedure is created, we would like to grant the permission to a particular user. Say like you are a DBA person, you created the database objects, and now you want to hand over the database objects access to a specific group of users, or maybe an individual user, whichever it could be, right? So here, this is how you would grant a permission to the object called store procedure, which is just what we created, right? So how can we do that is what, like first of all we'll use the learning DB. We are already into that. Now what we will do is we will grant the execute permission on the object. Which object? The object which you just created. So the object name is USP get student result, right? So that is what you will write in here, and then say keyword to, and then the username. Meaning simple, very simple text, like you just understand it as if like how you want to grant, what kind of grant you would like to grant it to the user. Then you want to allow the user an execute permission on which object? On an object called USP get result. Okay, and then to which user you want to grant this permission is this user. Okay, so that is how you will grant the permission on a store procedure. So first of all, we will just execute it. Now, after executing this, we would try to test this first of all, right? How can we test this? Is what, like we need to, after giving the grant to the user, we need to test it, like whether that really a test user, whether the test user itself exists or not. Let us just see first. Okay, I'm not sure whether I had it created or not, but if it is created, then much better. Okay, yeah, I had it created, fine. So we have the user created. So in your case, in case you are not having any user such kind, then you might need to create the user. Okay, and then see to the kind of the roles which are assigned to the user. By default you will keep it public. You will see to like what is the user mapping that you would like to give it. See, in my case I want to grant the user mapping, or I want to align this user for a particular DB only. I want to assign this user by default a learning DB, and then I would like the schema to be assigned to that user is test by default. Okay, all right, so let's just go and see how it is there in the learning DB now. Okay, now in the case of learning DB, we will come over here and go to the security folder, then go expand the users tab, and then again see to the test user. Now within the test user, you should see something called execute. See, always remember here, there is only one way you should go always. Either you go by the SSMS way, which is what I have it opened here in front of you, or you could go with the script way. If you try to see, then it may lead to a confusion, because whether you created it or not, say like we just created a script or we just executed a script, and now as we see, like there are two execute statement that we see, right? Execute permissions we see. So you get confused, like which one is referring to which one, right? So just to be sure enough, either you go from the SSMS straight away, or you go from the scripting way. Do not combine both the approach. Okay, why I am showing you is like so that it will be very easy. With whichever way you feel comfortable, you could write or grant the permission. Okay, so fine. So like in here, in this case, you can see here, like we granted the execute permission to the DBO, meaning like the database owner, and we granted the permission of execute for this object. In case you do not see a particular object, you could go here and find the particular object, or you could find all the objects of the similar kind, or you could find the all objects belonging to a particular schema. See, like you wanted to select only a particular schema, then go to the test, maybe DBO, right? All these different kind of objects you would like to refer, then in that case you will go with that way. Fine. So this is an option to that from UI that you could do. So that way, once you click on OK, then that object will be listed over here. Once it is listed over here, select it and then see like what kind of permission you would like to grant on that database store procedure. See, if it is a store procedure, it will show you the relevant store procedure related accesses. If it is a table, then it will show you the list of table related permissions. Okay, according to that. All right, so now let's just cancel it out, and then we saw that like here we have granted the permission to the test user. Now how can we test it? We need to log in using that user, right? So let us just go use this test user. If I can remember the password correctly, I'll type in it and see like if it allows me to log in. Oh, no. Let me see once again. No. Let me see what is the password for that. Okay, I think yeah, got it. So basically we got the logging into the test user. Now what we granted to this user is we granted an execute permission on the object called get student result, which is of DBO type, and then the test user, right? So let us go to the test DB, the learning DB, and then we'll try to see like if the programmability has the store procedure listed down here. Yes, we got it, right? So by default it was not there. Okay, now if you would like to just check whether this really has granted the permission to this user after we granted the permission, only then we are seeing this object, or even then also it was showing, right? Just to double check on whether my grant has worked perfectly fine as expected or not. So in that case, what I would do is I would just say revoke to the same permission. Okay, so that this object should not appear over here, right? Because we are revoking the permission from this user, test user. Okay, so let me revoke it and then refresh this branch, and then we should not see this object listed down here. Okay, all right, so it just executed, and now we'll go here again, refresh it. We should not see the object, correct? So it's not showing up. Now let us go back again and then execute this object permission, and then double check it again. Once again, go to here and then refresh it. Yeah, see, you got this object listed here, right? So this is how you will grant the permission to an individual object. See, this is the way maybe DBS can grant the permission, maybe a developer could grant a permission, but say like for a number of store procedures are given to you to grant the permission to an object, fine. So in that case, how would you list or how would you grant a permission to that? You may not like 50 store procedure, possibly you might have to grant a permission. You would not go and write all 50 statements over here. Instead, you could just go by the by default schema for that, right? You could just classify them based on the schema. That would become very easy for you rather than, you know, manually specifying it. Yeah, but in some cases, it could be the case where the specific requirements are such like in which you might have to go manually make those changes. Then it is a different case. But usually like we should avoid this kind of practice where just normalize it by, you know, differentiating them by the schema so that it will become very easy operating and the managing for the DBA person or for the developer person. So here we are granting the select permission on a particular schema. See, here we are granting a permission to the entire schema, not just the single object, all the objects under the DBO schema. Okay, so here we are granting the select permission on a schema called DBO, and to whom? To the test user. Fine. Now let us say, yeah, see, by default this is a test schema, right? So test schema is given the access for the test user, because the test user by default refers to or own that test schema. For that it is showing up the test table. But now we do not see the DBO tables which are there already present, but we are not able to see that as a test user. Fine. So how can you check that? Go to the existing the SQL DBA login and then try to see how many tables are there currently under DBO schema. See, this many tables are already present. DWS schema table also is there. Then stage table schema tables are also there, and then the test schema. So these two are the ones only we are seeing. But what we would like to see is starting from here till the top. All these tables we want to get an grant an access to the user so that he could perform a select or select operation onto that. Okay. So let us just go here and grant the permission to the user. All right. So now if we go here to the branch and then do the refresh, you should see each and every DBO objects are available for us to select it. When you say select, meaning what? Select meaning execute this select statement, right? We already learned these statements, right? Data query language, DQL commands. So this is what like a simple SQL select statement. You can just run this, or by default it just executed. It just lists like top 1000 records only from that list. Okay, so that is the select permission granted onto the particular object. Now go back to here and then revoke the same permission from the user. Okay, now this table should go away after we just execute this statement. Okay, so now executed it and now refresh it going here. Gone, right? It's gone. So the permission is applied perfectly, correct? So this is how you would just apply the permission onto it. It's very simple, no difference in the syntax here. Grant is when you want to grant the permission to the particular object. Object in the case when you assign the particular object a permission to it, or if you would like to grant the permission to the entire object or say schema, then you go with the schema keyword. And the opposite to that is like the revoke, meaning like you want to revoke the permission from an object, then revoke the execute on object, or if you want to revoke the select on a particular schema, then revoke select on schema. Okay, so this is how you grant the permission. Now you need to remember very carefully that once you like you do the once you create the database object, say store procedure, then you if you drop the store procedure again after you created an object, you drop the store procedure, you might miss the permission. So basically you need to reassign the permission because you drop the object. So whenever you drop the object, it will lose the permission assigned to that particular object. So always be careful while you do the dropping of a store procedure or any of the object. Okay, because the relevant permission granted on a specific object, which is what in our case, right, let's say like we granted this permission to the user, which will get away, which will get erased. Okay, because the object itself got dropped. So now there is nothing assigned to that, there is nothing that can be assigned to a particular object, right? Fine. So let us just understand how to drop a store procedure. So before we run this, like we need to see like where the store procedure is located, right? So we can go to the system store procedure. This is the module system built-in store procedure. Okay, so the system view, you can say like a sys.procedures. This view will basically provide you a list of store procedures within the current database. Okay, so let us just run. So see, there is only one store procedure listed here. That is what we want to use, right? So what we will do is we will copy the name to it from here. Now there are two ways basically you could drop the store procedure. One way you could drop it using the SSMS basically. So how you can do is, let's say you are a test user, right? You could not do this operation on your own because you are not the DBA person. You are given a limited permission onto this database with this login, correct? So for that reason, you may not be able to delete it. You may just see to the objects. Maybe you can just alter the object, but you cannot drop it or such kind. So in that case, the DBA person has to go there. He has to find out like whether this store procedure, what was the kind of dependencies available for that store procedure. Let us just go here, learning DB, expand the programmability, go to the store procedure and see like if this is the store procedure, then right click on it, then go to the view dependencies and see like if there is any dependencies. There are two ways you could check the dependencies on a database object like store procedure. The first one is the object that depends on the store procedure. Meaning if there is a dependent store procedure which refers this store procedure as a base procedure, or if there is a database table, or say maybe yeah, if there is another store procedure itself, maybe that procedure is expecting some output from after this store procedure. So in that case you would use this one. Okay, now in the optional way, objects on which this store procedure depends. So say like this is the table basically. So objects which are inclusive of this procedure will get listed over here, because the objects which are used within the store procedure, those will be listed over here, right? So suppose if there is a change you made to the table structure, then you need to come back to the store procedure, make sure the changes that you incorporated in a particular table, those changes are incorporated in the store procedure as well. Say like you went to the table, you removed couple of columns, but those columns has been defined in the store procedure. You did not remove those from the store procedure, it will straight away throw up an error, right? Why? Because it is not available now. Earlier it was available when you created the definition, or say you created the store procedure, but now as you just remove those columns from the table, now it won't be available for you to use, right? So for that case, you might need to see first of all before you try to drop, or you want to do anything on like whenever you make any changes like table level changes, or say like any store procedure changes that you make, you need to check the dependencies always. Okay, for that reason it is the beneficial. Now here we saw that like there are two ways from the SSMS within that, and then the similar way you could go and check the dependency using the script way. That is the second way. How can we do that? There is a system view like DM, dynamic management view, right? So that is the view you can say like DM SQL referencing entities is what we will be using, table valued function. Okay, so within that what we are passing in here, we are passing the name of the store procedure and say comma and then say object, because we are specifying that there is only a one object, right? For that reason we are writing here an object. So let us just execute and see like what it will do is it will display the objects that uses or refers the store procedure. Okay, so let's just execute. So there is nothing as such, correct? So there are no object that currently use this store procedure as a base store procedure. Okay, so we are good in that case. Now there is another point that we need to make sure is, are there any objects defined within the store procedure which are or which can be affected if we drop this store procedure? Say like if there is a table that you defined, or say you created a table and this store procedure is basically doing a DML operation onto it, meaning like it's inserting a record to it, it's updating a record to it, or it could be deleting a record from it. Now if you just remove this procedure itself, it will definitely affect to that particular dependent object which is your table, or if there is a view, right? So it will affect those object, and then it may not allow it to perform such kind of DML operation, and that table itself will become stale, correct? Because it may not have any connection left with this store procedure, and then it will just basically just make it difficult for you to manage, and you may not understand at that point possibly when you drop it, but then later you will find the difficulty. Okay, so always make sure you check the dependencies onto that, and then you make these changes. Okay, so now in this case, the first one is like the SQL referencing entities. Now here is the referenced entities. Just like just a simple keyword change. Here it is referencing keyword is there, whereas here it is referenced entities. That's the only change in the keyword for the table valued function. Okay, now the same way you will pass the same procedure name and the object name. Let's just execute the select and see what all things are being used in this procedure. Then within this procedure, it is saying that there is a referenced minor name. Minor name is what? The column name. Referenced minor ID is what? Reference column ID number. Now where these column IDs are located, I'll tell you but before that you understand like what is the referenced class description. So currently it's an object or it could be the column. So currently we defined it as like the object, but within that particular object it is defining the, or it is specifying the columns. For that reason it is object or column. Then the schema defined is DBO, table name is result table, caller dependent and ambiguous. Is the by default columns for that, right? As per the system settings, it will show up over here. Now, as we saw that like basically this is the referenced like entities. Now what we want to see is we want to check like for this store procedure, whatever the column number and the ID, minor ID that we are seeing, are they really existing in the basic table on in the original table, or there is a mismatch? Because like when you are making a changes or when you are dropping the procedure, you want to make sure like the store procedure that you are deleting is really going to be meaningful, like if you remove it, because then the kind of table you have, and in that like there are 4 to 5 columns. Out of 4 to 5 columns you may have removed two of the columns from there, and now you are using this procedure. So how can you verify whether the columns are still existing or it is removed? So to check that, this is again another view from the system view, which is sys.columns. You may pass the object ID to it. Object ID of what? Object ID of the table name. Okay, so it will fetch the object ID. It's a system function which will fetch the particular table ID, and meaning like consider as an object ID, and it will check within the sys columns like whether that object ID is present. If it is present, then bring up the name of the column and then column ID for me. So let us just execute it. So see, sequencing wise here it is there, and let's just together run it together. Okay, both the queries. So we will understand like what the sequencing we have used and how it is representing, right? So all 5 columns are here, and starting from 1 to 5, the same way columns are listed over here as it is available in the physical table, right? So we are good in that case. Now there is nothing to worry, and we can straight away go and drop the procedure now. Okay, so drop procedure, if exists then the procedure name. If it is like a test procedure that we created, then use the test dot store procedure name, and if it is DBO, then use the DBO, because DBO we may not be able to delete if we are a test user. We are in SQL user. We are currently in the SQL user. That's why we are able to execute this drop statement. If it is like a test user, it could not do that. Okay, or he could not, or she could not do that. So now let us execute. So yeah, so that's it for this, and thank you. Happy learning.